Hey guys, welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. This is episode 75 of Secret Sonics. I can't believe we made it this far. Thank you to everybody who has listened and supported me along the way and has helped the show get to this place. For this episode, I have a special guest. His name is Miguel Scott. He is a multi-Grammy award-winning music producer, audio engineer, mixing engineer, mastering engineer based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And it was such a pleasure to talk to him. He was so down to earth and so full of wisdom and so happy to talk openly and share so many things. And we talked about, his approach to mixing, what he's taken from the analog world and applied to, the digital world, how he interacts with artists. So many important nuggets and takeaways from this episode that I think you're going to love. So let's just dig into it. This is episode 75 of Secret Sonics with Miguel Scott. I hope you enjoy it. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. My guest today is Miguel Scott. Miguel Macgyver Scott is a multi-Grammy award-winning engineer, mixer, and producer currently based out of Atlanta, Georgia. He began his career at the legendary Electric Lady Studios in New York City. From there, he continued to the world-famous Tree Sound Studios in Atlanta, where he began the longest-tenured chief engineer in the studio's history. Along the way, he has worked on numerous platinum-selling albums alongside some of the most iconic artists in the music industry, from Whitney Houston, Lenny Kravitz, Usher, Faith Evans, Carly Simon, to Lil Wayne, Drake, Future, J. Cole, 2 Chainz, and Trey, to name a few. Former guest of the show, Derek Atwater, recommended I reach out to Miguel, who's been so gracious to agree and join me on the show. So welcome to Secret Sonics, Miguel.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you were able to get through that traffic on your way back from Nashville and get here just in time.
Yeah, definitely.
Super cool. Tell me a bit about your story. How did music and I guess music production start for you? And what's your earliest memories?
It's interesting. I guess I was kind of a late bloomer, to be honest. I just remember, being like 13 or 14, and for some reason I was visiting my grandparents, and they were playing records, and they happened to put on Jimi Hendrix's Greatest Hits album, and I was just like hearing a lot of it for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to be able to do that. I want to figure out how to do that. So, like a year or so later, I actually got my first job, working at McDonald's just so I could save up money and buy a guitar. And so that's kind of where I started kind of my career as a musician, trying to learn, how to play all the stuff that I, thought was really interesting. So, and then I kind of progressed from that into DJing and production, because I was kind of the guy in the band that figured out how to, throw the mics up and record stuff. So I kind of by default started learning some engineering kind of unknowingly. So I played in a lot of bands, mostly kind of blues bands and that kind of world of things, a little bit of rock and roll and stuff like that. And then from there, I kind of went complete kind of a whole different direction into like the EDM world of drum and bass and like kind of heavy dance music, that kind of thing. So I started DJing and producing that. A little makeshift PC that I built, and that kind of was really what kind of kicked things off for me. Just kind of learning my way through the process of producing and putting together music, all the things that are involved in that, as far as understanding and learning things about synthesizers and sound design and editing and recording. So I was doing that for about 4 or 5 years, kind of on my own, like super indie style, and then I decided, you know what? I need to figure out how to take the next step. And so after that, I kind of was calling around to studios and trying to figure out what it is that I needed to know or what credentials I needed to get involved, like kind of in a more professional way. And they kind of all directed me to, a couple of different music programs at schools, recording programs. So I originally went to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, and then went through their program. And then from there, kind of started interning at studios as part of my process for graduation.
That was here. That was in Atlanta.
That's actually, it was out in Tempe, Arizona, is where.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so kind of back in the out in the Wild West. So.
Yeah. What was the transition like from playing in rock and roll and blues bands into the EDM side of the the coin? Like how do you make that shift? Like, what changed?
I'm not sure what it was. I think it was just kind of the thing that inspired me about guitar was that you could make the instrument sound like so many different things and still make it speak. And I think that's what kind of intrigued me so much about EDM is that you could just create these instruments and sounds that never existed and make, or create these sounds and make instruments out of them. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you still like super interested in like sound design, synthesis, like that kind of stuff?
I don't spend as much time working on it as I used to, but I'm always interested in it. It's always kind of just fascinated me. Something I always really thought was just interesting and intriguing, and just always something new to learn and something new coming out.
Yeah, that's something that I'm also really interested in, but I don't think I've ever like put in the hours to get really good at it. Like I still like wouldn't really know what to do with like, a massive or a serum like wavetable and like really like starting from scratch. Like I could take a preset and kind of tweak it to where I want it usually, but I feel like you got to really spend hours learning that stuff, It's
a little tricky. It's like you said, it's kind of just putting the time in. And fortunately, I had kind of a few just different friends of mine that we kind of were all kind of coming up together trying to learn this stuff. And so it helps to have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of and go, oh, I had a lot of success using this. Or if you're trying to get this sound, use a triangle wave or use a saw or detune this and that kind of. So it helps to have more than one, kind of brain working on it. You can kind of pull a lot of things from other people.
Yeah, I feel like that's become like a common theme of this podcast. Is just kind of like, I mean, I don't know what it was like when you were starting out, but like already when I was starting out, it was just kind of like you got to go at this. You're by yourself, like at home with a laptop, just do it all by yourself. And for so many years, I didn't realize that I could talk to other people, and that's been actually the beauty of just talking, of like just doing this podcast is getting to talk to other people and see what they do. And I feel like that's a little bit lost in this generation now for people like coming up today. Yeah,
there's a lot to be learned from the YouTube university world. There's a lot of material out there and content, and a lot of good ideas for people that really know what they're doing. They're kind of in a place where they can share a lot of that stuff nowadays, which is wonderful. But there's also a lot of things that are unique to different cities or different areas or different groups of people that are cool, that kind of give you a little signature, which I think some of that is being lost because there's not as much. There's a lot of cross-pollination, which is good, but there's not a lot of kind of unique, it seems like, in certain areas, a lot of unique sounds coming out because people are kind of working together in their kind of little silos, and then the world gets introduced to that, and then everybody goes, oh, that's a cool sound. Let's try and figure out how they did it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's the internet has enabled us to like find whatever we need, but it's also made everything kind of ubiquitous and not as important. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, totally. So back to you. Like, did you have an aha moment when you realized, okay, like this music production thing, this is happening, it's taking off. This is going to be my future.
I think so. And it was kind of weird. At one point I just realized, I was like, man, I go to my 9 to 5 or whatever, particular job I was working at the time. And then I'd stay up all night making music and producing tracks and trying to mix stuff that other people sent me. And, someone would send me a song to master, and then I'd stay up till like 5 or 6 in the morning and like, knock out for like 2.5 hours and get up and do it all over again. I was like, wouldn't this just be simpler if I just did the one thing that I really want to spend all my time doing and found a way to get paid for it? So that was kind of my aha moment of like, well, I'm doing this anyway. I might as well try and find a way to make a living at it.
Yeah. So how did you get the internship at Electric Lady Studios in New York?
So I was very fortunate that the manager, he's actually still the manager. He's actually, I think, a co-owner at this point, a really nice guy. At the time, he went to the same school that I did, and so he was willing to take a lot of interns from that particular school. So I knew that originally I went to New York to get into mastering, and because there were tons of really wonderful mastering, houses in the New York area, and they kind of always had been. So I was like, if I want to learn mastering or get into that, this is the place I should go. And
interesting.
None of the mastering houses that I were trying to get an internship at the time were really didn't have any openings. So I was like, well, I've always wanted to make a pilgrimage to Electric Lady, which is kind of Jimi Hendrix is the person that kind of without exaggerating, it got me into the music industry.
I see
and
what you did
sparked
there. Yeah.
my musical kind of creativity. So
yeah.
So I was like, well, if mastering is not where I'm going to go at this point, then this is definitely where I wanted to go. And I was able to, through my connections with my internship placement person at the conservatory, and through the manager of Electric, I was able to get an internship, or at least get an interview, and they were, thankfully for my sake, impressed just enough to give me a chance to, start cleaning up stuff, and we're hoping I wasn't going to break anything.
Yeah. Wow. And so was your big break, like, I guess, getting the gig at Tree Sound? What really made things work for you?
That was when I think that's definitely where I got my first kind of major break. Having the being able to be around for some of the things that I got to participate in at Electric Lady definitely prepared me, kind of understanding, okay, this is how I need to comport myself, and these are the things that people are looking to make sure that I know, and just all sorts of interpersonal skills. So it showed me, okay, these are the things that are important, so that I can make the right impression, and that people can trust me that I'm going to do a good job with whatever it is that they happen to put in front of me. So if I didn't have that on my resume, I don't doubt for one second that I wouldn't have even gotten a chance to intern at Tree Sound. It was very, very, and it kind of always has been a pretty exclusive place, at least in Atlanta. It's just they've always kind of been in their own world, even in the larger community of the Atlanta recording facilities. So,
really?
So that was definitely, gave me the opportunity to get my foot in the door there. And that's definitely where I had the most growth as far as skills and being able to work with all sorts of different artists.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that you touched on the interpersonal thing, because I feel like that's the other major takeaway, I guess, from like all the interviews I've had. Is just, and just also my experience of working with artists is like, you have to be the psychologist in the room, and you have to, if you're a good guy to hang with or a gal to hang with, then that's like really, that's how you're going to like have a career. That's how people are going to come back, and that's how you're going to keep going.
Absolutely. It's the skills will kind of seal the deal, but no one likes working with a jerk.
Yeah.
So if you're not too cool for school and you're not a dick, you can give yourself a lot of opportunities for all of your other skills to take the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's I guess like jump forward to today. Like how do you find artists, or how do they find you? How does work for you?
So a lot of the artists that I've worked with in the past, really just I was had the opportunity to work with a lot of them as an assistant engineer, kind of on my way up, into the hot seat. And so a lot of them already knew me. I'd been in the sessions and assisting the engineers that they were working with already, who were really incredibly talented people that I got a chance to learn from. And so I kind of already had that relationship. And when, he was like, oh, we're going to come into town and work at the studio, our guys somewhere else already on another project, we'll just work with Miguel, since we already know him and he's familiar with the building and the room. We're good with that. And so that's kind of what kind of helped get me kind of into the hot seat, so to speak, and some pretty cool sessions.
At this point, you got like some Grammys and stuff. It's probably like people just know you,
Yeah. And then, being able to, like I said, that accolade is it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of, it's amazing how much, I guess, weight it carries, so that's been incredibly helpful in just my growth as an engineer, being able to kind of try to seek out different clients and just because I kind of have a really bizarre range of kind of genres that I like to work in. I've always kind of been interested in bands and that kind of thing. I've always had a deep love for working with bands and of all kinds, but I've also kind of been in the EDM and the hip hop world. So it's kind of a large gambit, everything from bluegrass to heavy metal to R&B and gospel to, the rap trap stuff. So it's kind of a lot of artists don't know what to think when they see some of my resume. They're like, well, does this guy really know our genre? Or, is he intimate with kind of what we're trying to get accomplished?